Hi, Chris.
Hi guys, how's it going?
Pretty
Can't,
good.
yeah, can't believe we're on
Also,
the. I'm,
this morning I was looking at the video on Stan about making color for the salt and pepper,
yeah.
you know. And
Uh-huh.
then when I checked my Facebook, I was like, wait, since when Chris do order 66 to the Facebook brand?
Since when, Chris? What?
Perch your friend,
Oh, the Pershing.
the purchasing brand.
Yeah, man, it got out of control. It's like I keep accepting like all kinds of people, and then when I look at my profile, I mean, like there's something that happened that kind of like a bunch of creeps out there, right? So there's
Oh yeah.
So there's an episode that people actually start like posting pictures of my kids with my family. It's like in
Oh,
the yeah. So some people were posting like pictures of my game room in some shady forum, and it was like
uh-huh.
my kids in there and everything. So like I was like, you know what? I have my family here,
Yeah.
and I don't mind. I mean, like dealing with shit that people talk about me. And I was like, there's always a bunch of haters out there.
Uh,
But
I
but
see. I see.
but every time there's someone involving my family, it's like or
Oh,
trying to drag my wife or kids into something. I was like, that freaks me out. Uh,
uh,
so, so I decided to just like, you know what? Let's keep things, it's like our connection, like when it comes to art, like either like my page on Facebook or Instagram. But then let's leave my family alone, unless I know the people like for a long, long time, So, but
no. Well, we are not gonna threatening your family, man.
I know. I know, man. It's just like, yeah, it's crazy. It gets out of control sometimes. But yeah, that's about that. So yesterday, let me just start sharing here before I forget. So what I'm gonna do today is this. So basically, like I started doing some hair because I'm concerned I'm not gonna have a lot of time to do the hair because it's a lot to deal with. So I started to do like a test drive, and then obviously gonna roll back and then show you guys how he started everything. And I might actually do some more grooming, like from the scratch, just to show similar thing how I got to this spot here. But then I might actually, after some time, just close and come back to this one because I have some more work done. But definitely going back and showing you how I'm approaching it. But one thing that I want to show you is this. It doesn't look anything like her actual hair, like the hairstyle. It's just to have something in there, right? So I just had the curves and everything. I can show you without the hair. It looks like this. So not a lot of curves. And if you don't have a lot, I'm sorry, if you don't have a lot of curves, obviously the interpolation is going to suffer, right? So for example, like I have the hair coming all the way from the top in here. So those guys are following some kind of structure. But then those guys here coming, the lower it gets, the deeper I want to get them. So basically like those ones coming from the top right here, I want them to actually cover the other ones. But that's not what's happening right now. So they're kind of competing in here. They're intersecting with each other. But it's good if I can actually layer those ones on top of the lower ones, right? So you see like this entire area, I have like a little hair guide in here, but I don't have any hair guides in this entire region right here. And then starting here, I have like 3 lined up, but it's not enough. I don't have any around this area, and I don't have any in the back in here. So obviously, if you have something that's very simple like this, XGen is going to try its best to actually interpolate all this stuff. But obviously, because you don't have enough hair, it's going to be, it's like very messy at the beginning until you get more hairs in there. So I'm going to show you what I have as a render, and you should not laugh because, I mean, like it's a messy, messy hair, but it looks like this right now. So it doesn't look anything like the haircut that she has because, again, the volume is not quite there. And also the style is not there because I'm actually not following, it's like, for example, those guys starting right here would have to cover the other ones. And those guys are just artifacts because they are actually coming from the middle area and they're not actually taking part of any of that. So maybe with some more guides, I can actually make them to force them to go back in there. If that doesn't happen, if I'm having a hard time, I can simply like select them and just like with this sculpt brush, just like put them back into place, and force them into place. But the color, I was actually experimenting with something that Marlon asked. Marlon asked to it's like what about like a hair with multiple colors, right? Like if you have the root in a different color, and that's basically the experiment I did here. So I can show you guys how I did it, and I think it's gonna work. It's like there's obviously like you can tweak the color, overall color of the hair, and the how you call like the melanin of the hair by using like a color for the scalp, right? I can do that, or and also I can control by hair, like you can see here, right? Like with the ramp, you can actually color the hair itself to have like a different, variations in there. So and then also the eyebrows, they're still very bushy, so they're gonna have to actually shave them and make them a little bit thinner, right? And also yesterday, the one I groomed yesterday, they looked too high, so basically like it was going too high. And then the option would be for me to actually just groom them back, grow the ones I reduced down here, and actually reduce the ones at the top and just like basically recreate them to conform to that. But I thought like, since it's such a small deformation, it's not like gonna be like a huge area I'm gonna have to cover. I can simply like slide my polygons. So basically like I just like decided to slide the polygons. So I grabbed with a sculpt brush and I just dragged a little bit of the eyebrow area down, constrained to the surface. I also gonna show you how I did it. And then the eyebrows was actually an easy fix for me to get the form back in shape. But then obviously the thickness is still too big, right? So I'm gonna have to reduce this and make it less bushy. But it's a starting point, it's like something to have there. It seems like the spec is very soft at this point, but at the same time, this is mostly a global light. I have like a little bit of my flashlight right here, which is helping a little bit. So it's like you can see the flash in the eye and the tip of the nose. So I might have to go a little bit more specky with the hair, because it's almost like it's getting a little dull for how much speck I'm seeing in the teeth and the other areas. So I can actually do that. But the other thing you have to pay attention is that if you're using low samples for your render, sometimes it's deceiving. Sometimes it looks very noisy and you think the noise is coming from the noise in the hair shape itself, and sometimes it's coming from the render, right? So let's look at all those things I just mentioned now. Now that you see that, oh, if you want to see something even more horrible, look at this one. So this is the first pass, right? This is the second pass, and look at this one. Yoo-hoo! Awful, right? Like, so the eyebrows very high, and this stuff very, a lot of volume. It's basically like I had just like a few guides. So if you have just a few guides, XGen is going to try to interpret that, right? So unless you start adding more and more guides, you're never going to get to something that looks more like hair, right? And also there's another pass that I did here. I can show you as well. See, there's this sculpt pass, because like I said, I don't have enough hair splines at this point to actually create like a shape that looks decent. So actually, to simulate it, I just create a sculpt layer here. So with the sculpt layer, I'm actually bringing the volume down like that. And it's also something you can do, if you can use the guides as much as possible. And then at some point, if you get in trouble, if you're not getting the shape, you can always force it with the sculpt brush. So you just like grab like a big comb brush, and just like with a big one, you can just like start tweaking things, But let's just save this guy so we don't lose it. And I'm gonna open something older from yesterday. We can start grooming on that one again, so I can show you exactly what I did, and also the tweaks for the eyebrows and all that stuff. I don't want you guys to miss anything. So, but at the same time, I have to keep moving. It's like I have to keep testing stuff to make sure that I'm gonna have the time to finish the portrait with her. I always try to finish until the end of the class, but like with Ray, it was pretty far from finished when everything happened, and it was during the time I was like dealing with that website that was copying my stuff, and and then this one here, I hope I can have the time to actually finish, but it's just this week, so I don't know how far I'm gonna be able to push until the end of the week. So let's see. Let's open something like let's see what time that was. 11:57. Let's grab that one first. And let's see what's the state of it. Let's hope that she's fairly bald. So this one doesn't have the hair at all. Let's see if I can get another file actually, because I think yeah, this one doesn't have it. And you can tell that the eyebrows are very high. that's the thing about like when I work like from close up like this. Sometimes it's hard to have an impression of the height it is, and I didn't use enough of like moving back like this. And the other fact is that at the end of the day, after a day of work, you know, it's like you're kind of burned out, so I can barely see what I'm doing. It's the best way is to actually work in the morning, and I was like wake up first thing in the morning, do some work. But at night, trying to do likeness is always like it is a mess, full of excuses. But that's true. It is true. It's hard when you're tired. Let's see. Yeah, so this one here has some of the guides. So let's start by eliminating those guides, perhaps. Let's do this. Yeah, this is the first pass I did. So let's eliminate the guides themselves. This one and this one. So basically, like I just want to go back to what we had yesterday. So I didn't have. Oh, look at that! Look at that hair. Because of the clump and the noise, so I'm gonna remove both of them. And I'm gonna basically reset to where you're at when we had those crashes, right? So I had this hair like this. Remember how I did it, right? Just selected the faces, just assigned the hair with I think like 126,000 follicles. And also the thickness was 0.01 and the length was 0.8. So that's basically like the settings I use for it. And as you can tell, just frame it here. It's going all the way up about here, but we don't have any fuzzies or anything, right? It's kind of like I'm gonna be using the peach fuzz to blend those together. And for the peach fuzz, let's see, we have plenty everywhere. So if I show you here, they're all there, right? So we have plenty of peach fuzz if you want to grow some of them and blend back. It's a little bit messy right here, even the length. I think what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna set the maximum length and the minimum length to the same, just to make everything the same length first, and then you slowly are gonna groom them again. But this is gonna be in the next step. So I'm gonna just hide for now the peach fuzz and lashes and the lower lashes. And I'm gonna keep like this. And that's that territory that I mentioned to you guys. You know, it's like you never know if it's gonna actually work every time you put some guides and you try to actually paint some density. But let's start with the eyebrows here first. So what I did for the eyebrows, like I mentioned, see like they are a little bit too high, right? So Maya, fortunately, has those awesome tools now. So just gonna go to Symmetry Topology. I'm gonna click that one, select one edge in the middle, this one, right? And then, so now everything is symmetrical. So let's go to the Mesh tools, sculpting tools, and then you can just dock it, and you can use the grab tool. And the grab tool, now to change the size of the cursor is always B, right? It works for XGen as well. So like B, and just click and drag with the left mouse button, so we can get the size. I'm gonna make it a little bigger like this. And the way it works is like this. So when you grab something and you have hair applied to it, you're gonna be able to move stuff around a lot. And then it takes a couple of seconds for XGen to actually accommodate to that. But it's very free form. So if I do this to show you guys here, so let's say, let's just grab this area, and I'm gonna go to the tool settings, and I'm gonna make sure I have constraint to surface on, right? Otherwise, I'm gonna be basically like pulling stuff in the real world, XYZ, without constraining to the surface, right? If you constrain to the surface, that basically like, it's gonna make you slide those edges without destroying the form that's in there. So let's just like bring this down, for example. I can just bring it like this. So it's gonna take a few seconds and just gonna accommodate back. And this is like a cheat, right? Like obviously, like I could potentially just like restyle it and then make it look nice and everything. But because the distance I'm going here is not that huge, I think I can get away with it, you know, without destroying the pores and stuff I have there. I think it's not gonna be a big deal because I don't even have too many pores in this area here. It's just mostly like texturing, right? And then if you're, let's say, like if you're happy with the height of it now, you can actually do a little smoothing in the topology. So you can just go to your brushes again. So it's I thought I had it docked in there. I think I did. Did I? No. So let's go to Sculpt Tools again, and then click this one. I'm gonna do the Relax tool. Let's close it. Constraint to surface as well. Make sure it's symmetrical, yes. And then you can just like smooth it like here. It's actually bringing up a little bit too much. Maybe right here. Yeah, just trying to smooth out a little bit what I did in there. So now I have the eyebrows a little bit lower. And then obviously like you can tweak as much as you want with the grab tool. Let's try maybe a little bigger like this. Got like an easy fix, you know, unless you're really pulling a lot of stuff without a lot of care. But in this case here, I'm actually being a little careful with it, not like really being too messy with it. Kind of like pulling, but slowly. So, you know, it's like a little bit better like this. Maybe a little bit here as well, right? So that's basically the way I fix the eyebrows. Obviously, they are very bushy. I'm gonna have to do that process of like eliminating some of them in the bottom, right? Turning them like into very thin, small ones. But this is just an example scene. We're going to be moving to the other one next, but we have to. I have to show you how I did the hair. So I'm going to just minimize the eyebrows here. I'm going to go to the main hair, and I have a sculpt node in there. But this is the default. When you create any description, you always have a sculpt modifier in there assigned automatically, right? But you can add as many sculpt modifiers as you want on top of whatever you put in there in the stack. So in this case here, what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna add a modifier, and this is gonna be the guide, right? So now click the guide, go to the attribute editor, and you can just say create. It's gonna create a bunch. Or not, did it? Did it create a bunch? I don't see it. Huh, interesting. I don't know if it got lost a little bit, but let's see if I can see any of them here. Let's try to add some by hand. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, then we're gonna have to redo it. Let's try world X. Let's try 2 right here. Let's see if it's gonna assign it. Yeah. You know what it is? This is actually a bug with XGen. It's basically like this the refresh thing. Sometimes that happens. If you click something, nothing happens. It doesn't look like it did anything. But sometimes if you just go to the in-guide base, you can just go right here in the bottom, just say like a rebuild, and then rebuilds it, and all of a sudden everything shows, you know? So it's kind of sucky, man. Yeah, it's one of the parts of XGen that I kind of hate, you know? It's just this, you know, like there's a lot about it to say. But so we're gonna live dangerously here. We're gonna actually click the density brush, and let's try it. So with the density brush, what we're gonna do, let's see, we're gonna do a, let's see, where is it? I forgot. Let's see, sculpt. No, actually, yeah, let's see, the tool settings actually. So this guy here, so I'm gonna click the density. You can just do a flood. Let's see if it's gonna work. So flood. Yeah, so it actually worked. And it preserved those 2 little guys that we added in there. So that's good. So we're just gonna click this one here, which is the length brush. And I'm gonna try to grow them a little bit. So let's see what happens. So now I'm kind of like growing interactively, right? So you can see the hair growing in there. But the thing is like, you don't need to see everything because it's gonna be very painful. So you normally turn everything off, right? So if you wanna turn the curves off, you press this one. If you wanna turn the hair off, you press this top one. So now you can see just the curves. It should be much easier for me to groom, right? Just gonna grow this pretty big like this. Antennas, right? And it's very symmetrical right now. And I'm gonna click the comb brush and make symmetrical as well. Symmetry on. Then let's go down. It's not quite symmetrical, right? Like it has a little problem in there, but not too bad. Let's just bring this one. So I start with something like this. And then, for example, like for blocking those guides, you can do it like very loose. And then let's say, okay, now you need some more length, right? But the thing is, like, if you just simply add, this is the trick with XGen. So if you simply try to grow them with the length brush, what's going to happen is that the shape is going to be lost. So for example, it's going to grow all together, right? So if you click this guy here and start growing, look what's going to happen with this shape I have in here. It's not going to go straight down. It's going to grow like this. So it goes forward and down, right? It just scales the whole thing. But if you want to, for example, like if you're happy with the shape close to the scalp, but you want to make everything longer, you can actually use this guy here, which is the grab tool, right? And the grab tool, there's a setting here, which is the preserved length, right? So if it's a preserved length, it kind of behaves a little bit like the count brush. So you can just like move stuff around like this. It always keeps the same length, right? But if you turn it off, you can actually really stretch things, which is really cool. So you can click this one and just like stretch all the way down like this, right? And when you do that, obviously, like the span is going to be completely stretched as well. So it's going to start getting a lot of stepping happening, right? So to fix that, we just have to rebuild the curves. So like once you're happy with the length, for example, you did something like this, right? You're happy, you can just go to the attribute editor, make sure you have the guide selected in there, right, at the top node. And you go to the in-guide base, just go down here. Let's see from the close-up, you're gonna see some of them are very steppy right here, right? So like 1, 2, 3 in the square. Just click rebuild, and now it's all smooth again, right? If it's not smooth, maybe you need some more CV counts. If it's a very long hair, sometimes like 100, 120, something like that, even 200, you know, depending on how smooth you want stuff. Especially if you want to go for like curly hair, right? Like you're gonna get like some very curly hair. You're gonna need enough spans to actually generate the spirals, right? So that's one thing to think about as well. So that's basically how we start blocking the hair. From this point on, it's gonna be all the same, right? So I'm gonna click back to sculpting here. If I'm happy with something like this, which I'm not, right? But just let's pretend I am happy with those ones. Obviously, keep looking at the reference to see if you're following the whole design, right? But so I'm gonna go back to the place of one hair at a time, the first one we added in there, right? So this guy here, and then make sure I have the guide selected, and then the edit is in there as well. And then I can add another set here. So let's try right here, close to each other, something like this. So you see it's shooting down right there because it's trying to interpolate with those guys, right? So that's a problem sometimes. You can either like groom from now, for now, like this, the way you see him there, probably gonna have to freeze one side. Or when you place them, you can just turn off the interpolate, and then that should create like a spike, and then that spike you can actually groom. So let's do that. Let's try to do like a little spike in here. So without interpolate, let's see what happens. It might be small though. Let's see. It might be small. So let's see. Yeah, it's very tiny. So I'm gonna have to grow it and then groom it. Yeah, it's great. Let's just use interpolation and really deal with intersection there. It's just a matter of like just putting a few of them, and let's do like the back and the middle area, and then interpolation shouldn't be too bad after that. But for now, until we establish the interpolation, it's gonna be a little bad. So let's just click this, guys. I'm gonna force it out with this one. I'm gonna click the comp brush with the big brush like this. You can just like pull everything out. And then obviously have symmetry in here is not gonna help me because it's fighting the other side. So I'm gonna just turn it off. And then this, just bring it down. And then there, bring it like this. And then like this. So now we can actually always use the freeze tool, right? It's a very useful tool. So just click this one. I'm gonna make it small, my brush, with the V, and then click drag with the left mouse click. Then I'm gonna select this guy, just gonna deselect the other one. And you can just like groom it out like this. And you're kind of like, you know, I'm just sketching here, right? I'm gonna be switching back to the other scene that has more stuff now for us to work with. But I have to actually show you how I started it, at least. because at the end, it's just a matter of like how many curves you're going to be placing, right? Like to get all the interpolation correctly. So there's a lot of tricks you can use and everything, but if it's a precise groom, you're going to have to add a ton of curves. So there's no magic way to do it, right? There's actually a magic way to do it, which is this new research that someone started developing, which actually can generate hair, digital hair from a picture. I don't know if you guys saw that stuff. It's pretty incredible. You can find that. Yeah, some dudes are developing that. I don't know if it's actually for Disney. I know that for Disney they did something about the irises reconstruction, but then the hair there's something as well. So it seems like you feed a couple of pictures from regular pictures, I believe, and the thing like interprets it and can actually read the directions and everything, and generates a very interesting copy of that, but digitally, which is amazing. So let's see. So now I have those guys. Just as out of curiosity, it's going to look terrible here because we only have like guides in four spots, right? If I turn on the hair, let's see what's going on here. Look at that, right? So it's just grooming from that little area. So like the influence is kind of small, right? So that's why we need more hairs everywhere, because you want to make sure that actually grabs all those areas, right? So I'm going to turn it off again. And then you're going to keep doing this. Basically, I'm going to do a few more here to show you guys. So let's try this one again. Interpolate is on. Let's do kind of like from the middle right here. Let's try that. So again, it's going to be, yeah, that's the thing. If you do them too close together, it tends to interpolate to, to the opposite side, to the same side. But if you do a little bit a little far apart like this, you see like it interpolates a little bit more in relation to the elder ones in there. So let's just do this, and then turn my symmetry on again. So it's going to be a little faster to do it, and smaller as well. So let's just grab this around there. So, I mean, like I'm not even designing anything here, right? I'm just showing you guys how I'm manipulating, which is basically like using the comb brush for most of it, right? But then every time I need more length or something that I need to change drastically, then I'm gonna resort to this guy here, which is the grab tool, right? That one is the one who can actually stretch the hair. And then once it's stretched, you just have to rebuild it. That's the whole thing. And even if you're not doing a lot of stuff with the hair, it's always good to rebuild at some point. You know what happens sometimes when you have like a sculpt layer, right? A sculpt modifier, and you're trying to counter something that's underneath. So for example, like if you have a noise modifier in here, right? And then you want to smooth out certain things, that noise. So for example, like there's one area that you want it a bit smoother. So sometimes you just create an additional sculpt layer on top of the noise, and you can smooth out that area, right? But then over time, sometimes like it gets a little bit confused when you are trying to fight, for example, especially with noise. You're trying to fight noise with a sculpt layer on top of it. Over time, it gets like, it starts like breaking the hair into like tiny little chunks, and then it becomes like an artifact, So to remove those artifacts, you just have to rebuild the hair like multiple times. So for example, like if you see that kind of, it's like weird, twisted, crunchy kind of hair, all you have to do is just go to the attribute editor, and you go to the in-guide like base, right? Like anything that ends with base. For example, for the main hair here, the base is going to be main hair base. For the in-guide 3 is going to be in-guide 3 base. And then underneath here, you just press rebuild like maybe like 5 or 6 times, and you're going to see that that crunchy thing, it's like the knots in there kind of dissolving and becoming more smoother again. So that's the fix for that. It's always like rebuilding. So even after you do a lot of stuff, like it's like a long session of grooming, it's good to rebuild the hair. Just make sure that everything is looking okay and smooth. And then there are other brushes here I never show you guys, but I mean, like there is a smooth brush here as well, right? So for example, if I'm bringing this up and then down here, sometimes you get some stuff to deform weirdly like this, right? So for example, like I'm pulling the length, and then it's going to stretch those lines. But if I'm bringing it back, you're going to see like it starts like creating this crunchiness, right? But there's a brush here that's this one. So it's Smooth Tool. this one is for this kind of stuff. You can always smooth back, you know. It's very cool to just like bring back the form. You can use it all the way across. So the smooth brush is really cool. I show you guys this guy, that's the clump brush. This one is to actually create the division right in the middle of her hair, right? The part tool. I can actually use this one to help me to, you know, to split the right in the middle as well. So far I didn't have to, but you know, we can use that one. And the select tool. So at this point, I only have hair in here. Still gonna look very messy. See? But that's basically the way I started this whole thing. And then from here, I don't think there is anything I can show you that's different from what I'm going to be showing now. It's basically like just like what I did is to put more hair and more curves everywhere, but especially right in the middle, right? So like you're going to see in the next model when I open, you're going to see those curves. I placed them really close together in, you know, it's like right here at the center of the scalp. And then I'm starting to groom actually those ones going towards kind of like almost like over the ear. And I can show you the reference here. That's the very, very tricky hair. Let's see, this one here, right? So basically you're gonna have to create this wave going right there. And she has like barely any volume at the top. So all this stuff, either I have a ton of hairs, and I try to, you know, to control that with a ton of like guides, right? Or I'm gonna have to use like a scalp brush to get stuff closer to her scalp. But if you look at the way it works in here, basically like the ones at the very top are the ones covering everything else, right? Which is logic. So for example, the ones at the top are gonna be covering everything else. So the way I'm imagining this is that I'm gonna have to groom those guys here, kind of like with a space in between, for example, like a space between the face and the rest of the hair. And then those guys are going to be the dominant ones that go around in here and go behind, right? And then as I go lower in the scalp, around like, for example, like I start with those guys covering everything, the most external layer. Then a little bit lower in the scalp, then those are going to be fillers. And then those fillers are going to be the ones coming from behind in here, right? And start to take this space right here. And then as I get lower and lower, I'm going to get more of those guys coming from behind in there and getting more curly and things like that. So I'm going to have to pay attention to those layers in here that at this point, I'm not paying too much attention to the layers. So I'm going to have to actually really start paying attention to create this, this design at the top. And then everything else down there is going to be fillers and more curves to actually drive the whole thing to a smaller volume, right? Because right now she has a ton of volume in her hair. So let's open that scene that we just saved before. This one I just opened to give you an example, and but we need to move forward. So let's pretend we are grooming a lot here, and I spent like another hour just like adding more curves. So instead of like torturing you guys with that, let's start with more curves and see where are we at, and then I'm gonna try to problem solve this stuff and try to add some more design and more curves in here. So let's check it out. So yeah, right now I have all those guys. So that's basically us like an hour from now or something like that. And then so let's hide everything else. Let's hide all those guys. I'm gonna keep just the hair visible. And then let's expand this one. We have some noise in there. So the noise is doing this basically. See, like if I turn off the noise, everything becomes basically like just a clump, right? Everything is just clump right here. And if I turn off the clump, then everything is very straight like this, right? So the clump was obviously too strong, but I was just experimenting to see how many of those guys here I could get kind of for free. But I might have to actually design them kind of manually instead of like relying on something random, right? Or not. I mean, I can use maybe a combination of both. Some area more control and some area a little bit more wild like this. But you see, like the interpolation is not quite there yet. So she's growing a ton of hair from her neck in here, which is probably coming from, I don't know where, but it is weird. It's coming from somewhere. Let's see, hair. Yeah, it's growing all the way across her head. It's coming from the top right there. So yeah, we're gonna ignore that for now. And we're gonna just concentrate in those hairs here. So you see, like I mentioned before, I don't have a lot of fillers in here just yet. So that's why they are fighting each other and creating all those weird volumes. So we're gonna have to try to incorporate some of them. So let's start by freezing this guy here. Let's go to sculpt and then edit. All right, so we're actually not the main here. I'm gonna go to guide, sorry about that. So guide, this is important actually to see which one you're sculpting. So the guide, and then now I can actually sculpt those guys. Let's just freeze this. And then let's start playing with those guys here I was mentioning before, the most external ones. I'm gonna try to create some more of that shape on her hair. Click this one here with control. And then I can just use the comb. I'm gonna try to bring this a little bit more, a little closer to kind of like coming to a point. So basically like those two ones in the front, they're gonna start kind of trying to merge in there. I'm gonna just add some space in between them. And then, like I said, I mean, like there's a gap in here in the middle, and that gap is actually making things grow without any control. So basically like they're getting lost and then creating that accidental bangs in there in front. Right? So let's do this. So like I said before, I'm gonna make sure that those guys, they have enough space for something else come from behind in there. So they're gonna make just this one go a little bit more over the ear. Like that. And then let's get to the next one. And this is gonna be, let's see, this guy is a little bit behind there, right? So let's get this guy a little bit more outside. Oops. This guy. Okay, let's get this one to bend a little bit more. See, like so close to her face, that's gonna cause intersections because those guys are kind of fighting the ones at the same level in here, but I have to make sure that they have, they are at the top. So that's why I'm gonna be bringing them out a little bit with a big brush like this, especially around here. You need to have that space in there. Maybe too exaggerated, but yeah, it definitely has to be more external. Something like that. And then again, I mean, like you can always preview this stuff just if you want to get scared, but it's not in a good spot to actually preview anything. It's just gonna look weird. So let's look at this. So it's just like starting to actually create that shape in there, right? I might need to go a little bit wider, but not by much. Let's see if I can get this. Maybe like bring both at the same time. So let's try to select this guy here as well. I'm gonna try, treat them as a little bundle. Oh, sorry, I'm actually selecting that one. I'm gonna have to click this guy here in order for me to be able to select anything. Let's try a little bit bigger. What's going on? Where is it? This guy? Did I change anything here? Let's see. Sometimes it's just hard when you have a lot of stuff selected. Yeah, it's easier. So let's just bring both of them out. But the thing is, like, I wanted to see with the actual hair. So let's do this. Just bring it out like that. See, it's actually influencing the hair going all the way down. So basically, instead of like just stopping right here, right? All of them here, all those guys are being influenced by the same curves, just because we don't have enough curves. So like there is no interpolation being, generated correctly, and therefore the other areas. When you saw the other scene, what we had was just, it's like you could see that just with a few of them, how things break, right? It's kind of like, cover the entire face and everything. And how close to this, to the, kind of like how small the fall off was, right? So basically like for each one of the hairs, the fall off was kind of similar to the size of the cursor right here. And that was about it. Maybe a bit smaller than that. So kind of like that's the area that's gonna cover, it's like he's gonna grow from here. So in her case, There's some like smaller ones coming from here as well, but you're gonna start kind of slowly. You cannot do all at the same time. Let's just paint those ones out. And then those guys here are competing, right? So this guy, for example, it's a little competing with it, right? It's coming out too much, and it's kind of like almost like colliding with those ones we just added. So I'm gonna just bring it back slightly, because you want this one to come a little bit closer to the scalp. Still have a little gap because you want to put some lower ones as well, but at least like have a little bit less of that stuff. And in her reference, it's kind of like comes from behind. So I'm gonna put it like this, and then create just a little bit of a curve in here. You can like curl this guy here at the tip, something like that. Always with the comb brush, and then even closer slightly. So, okay, so this one definitely is going underneath those two ones I just added, right? But then there's one here that's actually competing with pretty good. So let's try to find it here. So this guy here is going out quite a bit. Let's see, which one is that? That guy, right? It's hard to pick them in the middle of this mess. Let's get this guy here, right? So yeah, it's kind of like almost touching the other ones, right? So it's going to create that impression. I think it's kind of like a kind of collide in there. You get a little, you know, messy, right? Want to make sure it's deeper than that. So let's just bring this a little bit deeper. Let's get the comb again. Out, and then from time to time, you can actually start merging with the similar ones, right? So you can get those strands to actually, you know, form by coming from slightly different areas of the scalp, and then it's like merge into a kind of like a clump, right? So you can create those strands that are a little bit thicker like this. So from time to time, you can just pick a, you know, it's like one that's like a similar position, and just you can fabricate those guys. So again, this one is too short right now. So I'm gonna go to the grab tool, and I'm gonna keep the preserve length off, so I can actually pull this and force it. So I'm gonna force all the way down, and I'm gonna start, like you see like how square it is, right? It's very square because I just pull it and forced it, right? But now we just have to go to the guide, attribute editor, main base, and then you just rebuild it. Look how cool this is. So rebuild. Oops, I'm pressing the right one on this guy. Sorry. Where is it? In guide base, rebuild. Look, perfectly smooth, right? So I love this brush, you know, it's like the grab wants to just like force things into place very quickly, and then go from there. And then from that point, it's just like comb brush for everything else. So now it's a little deeper in there, so those guys can actually go over them. But there is a, let's see if it got a little bit better from this angle. Yeah, I'm starting to see those guys here covering it, right? It's kind of hard to see. Let's see if with this guy it's easier. Probably not. Let's see, eyebrows. Yeah, I'm not gonna be able to see it. Yeah. Oh, another thing I can try. Let's see. Am I seeing with the tubing? Let's see, with the tube shader or not? No, there's no tube shader. And so basically, if I turn on tube shader, you're gonna be able to see a little better. Like this, right? So now you can actually see the hair in there. Like that, right? It's just a lot of hair, so it's kind of hard to see, but let's keep it off for now so it's a little faster for us. But basically what's doing is what we expect, right? It's following that line, but because of the amount of splines is so little, you're gonna be, you know, it's like depending of, you know, it's like adding more stuff constantly. So let's try to fill up, like there's a gap in here, she's bald in there. So I'm gonna turn off again the hair, and we're gonna start planning that as well. So let's go to guide, and then guide like this. Let's go to place, and then just groups. Oh, let's just freeze this guy here since it's in the spot that I kind of like. And then let's add some more with interpolation on. Yes. So let's go here, for example. Let's add another 2 ones here. Actually, he added to one side. Probably it's in the other side too, but it's just like trying to interpolate with something else. So it's definitely there. Let's pull it out. But it's short, as you can tell, right? Because it's interpolating with some other ones. But obviously going to be having to correct that as well. So I'm going to keep this one not at the very top level. It's kind of like a mid-level. So I'm going to put it closer to the scalp, but I know that I cannot get too close because I'm going to need the lower level in here that's going to have to come from underneath it as well. And then I'm going to use the grab brush again. I'm just going to stretch this, add some length to it. And there's like very like free form, just like force it. So let's see. Some of them are going to start getting a little bit more of, you know, it's like different layers, right? So I might start like bringing them closer to the hair in here and a little bit more of a undulation like this, right? So I get a little bit more of that design because she has plenty of those guys going around here, right? So there's a lot going on in there. So we can actually try to simulate that by adding some, you know, it's like a little bit more of a curvature, you know, ending a little bit like a NAS curve in there. And then from this angle, maybe same deal. So it looks more like a little bit more like a spiral, kind of fabricated spiral in there. And then let's see, it's close enough, the scalp. Yeah, it's pretty good. And let's see, this side. It's good that I ask the questions and I answer right. Oh, yeah, it's pretty good. It's decent. It's something that might work. But yeah, this is the kind of stuff that takes time, you know. It's like it's one of those classes that you guys probably going to be watching me doing this for a while, but it's the step that's necessary, right? Especially if you're going to go to the same trouble of modeling someone with long hair, which I don't have a ton of experience, right? I know the basics and the theory of how to do it, but it's also a challenge for me, so I'm going to be experimenting with it. And hopefully going to come up with a nice result at the end, you know. But I learn how to trust the process, you know. It's like that's an important thing because sometimes we see a little bit of the result like straight away, right? And you want to see something like, oh my God, why is it not working just yet, right? And then I know now that, I mean, like it's going to take time to actually have more guides in there to help me with the whole thing to take shape, you know. So I have to trust the process, and that's the kind of stuff that if I were you doing this kind of stuff, I would just grab like the best music you can find. You know, it's like if you're by yourself, and put your headphones on. You know, it's just like you try to zone out and just like, you know, do your thing in there and just try to get stuff done, but having a little bit of fun. You know, because it is not like the most exciting stuff. There's a part when you get those bundles of hair and then you model them, sculpt them kind of all together. That's kind of fun because you're actually sculpting the forms, right? But at this point, just placing guides and making sure that they are kind of okay, you know, okay placed. It's just like, it's a little bit more of the same, you know? So let's just rebuild those guys. Let's just make sure that everything is good. I don't need to rebuild all the time. It's just, you know, so. Right there, I rebuilt a bunch of times, then all of a sudden it got a little bit more smooth, right? Looks nicer. And then let's see this guy here. Yeah, it's coming from the top, so just remove the intersection a little bit. And let's see how this all looks like, if you got messier or not. So yeah, now it's pretty close to her scalp right here. You see, like it's so close that it's actually intersecting with it. So that's good. That's a good sign because at this point I don't want to worry about it, because if I resculpt here to reveal the scalp, as soon as I add more guides in another layer, then I'm gonna be fighting what I just did, right? So I'm just gonna be keeping adding more. And then another thing that's might be happening here is that I have a sculpt layer, right? Let's try to turn it off. Yeah, that's gonna do the job as well, right? Because the sculpt layer I just added to actually help me to block the hair, right? Very quickly. But now that's actually, it has more guides, I can actually remove it, and I can keep grooming from here, I suppose. So see, like the hair, it has all those intersections between those areas. This kind of stuff, you know, you see those patterns kind of like intersecting. It's nice if you can actually avoid that, bring them to actually like I said, like in layers, right? Like the top hair is going to be covering everything else, and then the mid tighten there's going to be kind of like underneath slightly, and then the lower ones even lower and deeper, right? But if you want to eliminate those guys without doing any of this stuff, you can always cheat with the noise layer, right? So if you click the noise in here, see how perfect it looks now? I'm gonna click it off. Look at this. See, you can see those lines in here, right? There's some intersection going on, penetrations. But you turn on noise, and they kind of blend together. Look at that. That's pretty cool. So, and the noise, you have to be careful, obviously, right? Like if you add too much of it, then it's going to start getting very scraggly and weird. So I added just a little bit, just enough to add some more naturalistic look to it. But her hair volume is definitely closer to the reference now. But obviously, because I don't have enough of those guides, as I keep repeating all the time, then you're not going to get those strands here to actually, carry too many of the guides, too many of the follicles, because they're actually fighting with the neighbor for, it's like who's going to pull them closer, right? So kind of like all the interpolation is happening, trying to pull the neighbors in there. But as we add more stuff, we should be able to get better and better results. It's just going to take time. That's all it is. So let's do this. And another thing I'm going to try tell you guys, I mean, like yesterday we had that problem with my XGen actually crashing all this stuff. I mean, like this is not very different from a professional environment, It's like, I gotta tell you, sometimes like there's some days that's just like things just don't go right. It's like, and this is in every single studio I ever worked. It's like you think you're safe because you have the nicest tools out there and everything, but you're dealing with software and hardware, and also with some human error, right? Like either like my own error or other people who touched the job before. It's like there's all kinds of variables in there, and some days you just like spend a whole day, it's like trying to troubleshoot something or trying to save a file, and then it keeps crashing or something like that, right? So this is kind of like a mini version of that. It's like I think we are very lucky in all those classes so far in 3 months for how little crashes we had. It's like there is like in every class I had a little bit of a crash for sure, but not terrible. It's like not something that hold us back like hours, or something like that. Kind of like I obviously I tried to find ways to keep moving on without like stressing too much. Like yesterday, I was like, okay, I'm gonna give it a try, but if it's not working, let's redo this, And that's I think what I try to do at work as well. It's like I try to do like in a smart way. It's like if things are not working, okay, what's the alternative? Because I can either spend another day trying to solve that, or I can find a different way. It's like, and normally that's what we end up doing. It's like so I guess like if you guys are just students, I know like some of you guys are students. It's like a great skill to have is not like how you groom the hair or how you sculpt the faces or anything. It's problem solving. It's like it's having like okay, like there is an issue here, and I have to find a way. It has to be fast to solve that issue, and then you go from there. It's a great skill to have, and that keeps you in the studio for a long time too. It's like when people can trust that you can solve the problems. And then over time, I mean, like after you do this stuff for a long time, it's almost like nothing else scares you. You can get those very weird projects, and then you can see like producers freaking out and all this stuff. It's like, oh, I don't know how we're gonna do this and stuff. Like, yeah, I have an idea. It's like I don't know exactly how to do it, but I have a ballpark of how we could approach this, and then you end up getting stuff done. It's like it's just a bunch of artists that think together about stuff, and then they come up with solutions, that normally get us out of the hole. And so that's a good thing. It's like just like problem solving. It's just like learning how to think fast and don't get stuck. It's like getting stuck is the worst. Like it's a waste of time and money for the company, and they sure don't appreciate that. So if you can just like find a different angle, right, like to approach stuff, that's a great skill to have. Keep that in your back pocket at all times. I think like that's what fascinates me about ZBrush, for example, is that ZBrush is not a linear software, right? it's very weird and hard to understand the interface and all that stuff. But what is cool about it is how flexible it is and how you can actually solve the same problem in multiple ways, right? It's to me, it's pretty amazing. You know, it's like more and more as I grew older, I started to appreciate you know, different ways of doing stuff instead of like just like following the same rules over and over again. You know, it's like that's why I think like this whole class was structured around, you know, it's like my own way of doing things, which is not might might not be like the best way if you're in production, perhaps, right? But the thing is, like, we are not in production here. It's those techniques you might be able to use a bunch of them in production. I use them in production, but it's much more freeing than that. Like what I want is for you guys to be able to explore and to develop as artists. You know, it makes me really proud when I see a student, you know, it's like trying techniques and even like when they're trying some techniques and instead of like using everything the way I did, they're actually mixing with their own techniques. Or for example, like combining my stuff, my way of doing the pores and everything with texture XYZ and getting results that way. You know, it's like, it's really cool to just see like people experimenting with stuff. I think that's it's part of the spirit, you know, of this class. Just like, just do your thing, you know. It's like, don't care too much if people are judging you, you know. I think for the longest time, I was kind of like always concerned people are going to be judging me if I do one of those classes live. You know, it's like, how are people going to be judging me because it's so unconventional, right? Like a lot of stuff that I do, and then people are going to be like, oh, but doesn't look right, you know. And then at some point, I was like, you know what? That's why I think like it's not like a pretentious thing to have a class called like Fly on the Wall. It's not a pretentious thing, you know. It's like, it's just like it is what it is, you know. It's like I think the experience is kind of like that. It's just you guys kind of like if you could be a fly, right? It's the whole thing. I'm not calling you guys flies. I'm just saying like if you could be a fly and you're just like sitting at some corner here in my office, you know, at some point, and then like just looking at how I do my stuff, you know, I think it's a cool thing, and that can be said for all artists, you know. It's like every single artist is going to do things slightly different. It's going to put their own spin in it. And I think the treasure is always like seeing those little things, you know. Some of them sometimes make sense. Some of them don't make sense. And then we just filter out. But whatever makes sense, if you guys can use it, that's going to make me really happy to see that you guys are using anything I'm teaching you. But it's definitely something I enjoy doing. You know, it's like showing you guys those things and exposing you to this. There's not a lot of people doing, I think, what I do when it comes like to showing everything. You know, it's like and having the you guys on the other side, you know, free to ask me anything. And if I need to open some previous files from other files, other models, just to show you guys how it was done and everything, I have no problem with that. I think you guys are paying a very fair price. You know, it's like you know, it's the minimum I can do is to actually show you guys and keep my promise. You know, it's like that, not hiding anything, right? That's the whole purpose, I guess. End of the monologue. I talk a lot, man. By the way, talking a lot, I think, is to hide the fact that my English is not perfect, and then you have to actually use many words to express a very simple thought sometimes. Yeah.
I think the monologues are one of the best part of these classes, Chris.
Thanks.
Yeah, it's just always good to hear how other people think about their artwork and, you know, the whole methodology and the mindset.
Exactly. Yeah, it's cool, man. I appreciate when I go to those conferences and everything, and I sit there and just like, and I can see myself in a lot of things that the other artists do, but at the same time, there's always something that, you know, is like, oh, that's interesting. You know, I never thought about that. So that's a little treasure. Like all of us have that, you know. It's like all of us have a little way of doing things. It's cool.
Yeah, I mean, the tools are tools. It's just about how people use them.
Yes, exactly.
You know, find little tips and tricks that you never thought of.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, it's like I know there are some people, obviously they're gonna complain about everything, you know, right? Like anything you can do. I mean, like for the longest time I was like, oh, I don't want to do class. I don't want to do classes. Then when I start doing classes, then I put a price, and then the price, it's too expensive, you know. It's like, and then even if I did like for a third of that price, some people would complain that it was too expensive, you know, because there is an epidemic happening right now with Gumroad and all that stuff. That people are like, and even Artstation. I mean, like people are selling stuff for like $3, $5. You know, I was like, what the heck? You know, it's like you really must hate yourself for selling your stuff for $3. You know, I think people should put some, you know, value their work. I mean, like it takes many years, right? Like to just develop a style. And I don't know, man. I'm not trying to scam anyone. You know, it's like if I was doing this class, for example, and not showing anything, right? Like in charging you guys for not showing anything and just holding all those secrets and all that bullshit. You know, it's like that would be like a totally fair to, you know, it's like people to bash my skull, you know. But man, I try to be generous, you know, with people, and you know, it's like I know money is not easy to make, you know. So
yeah, it's just that some of us kind of like a reserved person, you know.
Yes.
Sometimes it feels like, you know, if I charge more, I feel sometimes I feel that will people gonna enjoy what I make? Something like that. So that's why some of us like charge few instead of more.
Yeah, that's true. You know, like for the longest time, that's one thing that a lot of people don't know. I was the founder and administrator of a big Brazilian forum back in the day that was called 3D for All. And for a couple of years was the biggest forum in Brazil. When I closed it, I had no time. I was working professionally in the industry already. We had 30,000 people in there. I ran that forum with voluntary help from my moderators for like many years. So I would say like maybe 8 years or something like that. And we never charged a penny from anyone. We had 30,000 people. We review like many talents like across the, you know, the globe. A lot of those guys, even Grassetti, you know, Glauco, those guys posted in our forum back in the day. A lot of these people, like they are not known at all for a long time. And then we revealed them basically because there is an epidemic in Brazil that like the other forums, they're just like plugging their buddies. You know, it's like the forum owners had their buddies and they would just like plug each other, you know, it's like, and it was just like this little hug fest in there for the buddies. But then I had this experience of posting my work for the first time in that same forum, hoping that I would get like a nice feedback. And people just bashed my work, you know. It's like everything I did was wrong. It was like, yeah, obviously I'm just a beginner, you know. I was like, but I don't think it's terrible. And then I had this terrible experience, you know, with that forum. And the funny thing is that I posted the same work. I thought to myself, you know, it's like, since I'm going to be bashed by someone, let me, you know, instead of like posting here in this forum, I'm going to try like the biggest forum out there. So it was CG Talk back in the day. So I posted this exact same work, man, and I got front page like within 3 hours. And then job offers, like the first one was from Blizzard, all kinds of crazy stuff start to happen from that point on. But the thing is, like, it was the same work I posted in that forum, and people hated it, you know? So my intention was to actually fight that forum. So I set up to just like, okay, I don't want people to have the same experience I had. So I don't care who you are. I don't care if you are known or not. If your work is good, we're gonna plug you. So we have like all the moderators post. So we have a code of rules and everything. And he posted the work of all these people, and he had like everybody, you know, it's like always someone with a cool work in the front page. And a lot of the people in there got jobs because of our forum. And I never charged anything, man. You know, for many years. For now, some people just like feel that, you know, it's like I'm scamming people. It's like, give me a break, you know. It's like, I mean, it's a little bit different right now with a family with 2 kids and living in freaking Marin that you actually have to charge people. But I had my fair share of like a voluntary free work that I did like without making a penny for like almost 10 years, you know. So I think it's not unfair to ask the price. And then obviously it's a free world, right? Like people have the right to just refuse and not take the class, or just think, okay, this is going to be an investment. And as long as Chris is going to be showing me how to do stuff, it's going to be a good investment, you know? But yeah, it's like, it's crazy to me. But back to that thing, I mean, like the Gumroads is very cool, you know? It's like it's making things more democratic. There's like people, you know, it's just like students especially, right? Who are in trouble financially, in just like, it's cool that, you know, it can help them and everything. And I don't think about like not doing this ever. I was actually thinking about doing some free tutorials and everything and putting the website and all this stuff. But the thing is, like, people judge you before they even know what your intention is and what you want to do, you know. It's like, so before I even started this class, I saw people were complaining about my class already. It was amazing. It's like, oh, I did this class with Chris like 6 years ago, and yeah, I don't think this one is worth it, which is completely different from those classes, you know. So it's amazing, man, the amount of hate you get. Incredible.
People have a lot of free time on their hands, and they just love to complain.
Oh man, it's amazing, man.
At the end of the day, it's like we're not just paying for 36 hours. We're paying for however many years you've been doing this. You're paying for the experience, for the knowledge.
For the knowledge, for this experience, and also like for 128 hours, right? Which is basically
exactly.
Yeah. I'm giving a bunch of different projects for people to play with, you know. Yeah. Just like, man, it's like it doesn't matter what you do. I mean, like there is always someone who's gonna try to pull the carpet from under you. But at the end of the day, I mean, like I'm the one working at ILM for 12 years. And having my work like featuring a bunch of websites in the past and all this stuff, you know, it's like, and those guys are just like, that's what they're good at, just like shit talking, you know. It's like, but they're not good at producing many things. So yeah, I don't know, man. Sorry for the rant, but sometimes it pisses me off, especially like right now with all this crap going on, you know. It's like people stealing my stuff and complaining about it. I was like, what the heck? It is amazing. But I sure love the experience, man. I you know, it's like, and it's not just the money. Obviously, the money is helping a lot, but you know, it's you know, like hanging with people. I'm a very introvert guy, and maybe that's my defense mechanism to talk a lot, because it's just, you know, it's like I pretty much like I'm a hermit when I'm doing my own projects. So this whole thing makes me work a little differently, you know. It's like interacting with people on a daily basis and all this stuff. So it's pretty cool for me as a person, you know. So it's kind of like a therapeutic in a certain way. But I really enjoy it, you know. It's like, and especially if I see you guys moving forward with your projects and getting stuff done, you know. It's like that's so cool to see. I mean, like it's so much content that I talk about in those classes that takes time for people to actually revisit the videos and do the tutorials and come up with the results. But the people who are actually pushing forward, I'm seeing like very cool results. You know, it's like people from the class of May, just now some of them are actually finishing the jobs. And I'm really liking the results, you know. So hopefully soon we're going to be able to see more people posting their stuff, which would be very sweet to see. Because yeah, it's the kind of stuff, you know, it's like if you don't practice it, you're probably going to lose it, you know. Sorry, I interrupted.
Chris.
Yeah.
So, do you have a region map plugin in?
No, I don't.
Wait.
Yeah.
How can you make like it looks like it has a region map, but you haven't plugged in region map yet?
No, I don't. Yeah, that's what I said. I think like the yesterday or the day before, which is like for region maps, I think you need just a single UV, right? Just one UDIM. Otherwise, you cannot paint the region maps. I don't think it works with the UDIMs.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So in that case, for example, like I had the option, for example, if you want to do this, if you want to go with the region maps, you can just click the model and you can just go and actually redo the UVs. Like you can just click layout and make sure that everything is packed into a single space. And then I think you're going to be able to paint the region maps. But then you're going to have one model that's going to be that one and another one just for rendering the skin. And then when you render, you just hide the one that's holding the hair. But because I'm using a single model for everything, so that's why I'm kind of like, you know, I'm just adding more curves to actually control things better. And those are basically my region maps in here. Like if I have enough of them close together, they end up like covering a huge amount of space, right? So for example, around here, it has a kind of like a radius around there. So it's going to cover pretty good. But if I need more detail, then I'm going to have to pack them together. So I'm going to have to, you know, it's like I said before, if I want to create like a nice curve in here with multiple hair strands and everything, I can actually create one at the top and another one more like in the middle in here. But then when it comes to the very tip of them, I can start getting them more and more together until it becomes like a clump. And then that way I can get like more of a design, you know. But it's always a matter of picking the right ones to do the job. So right now, I mean, like just by adding more of them, you saw like when I started this whole process, it was kind of like, if you remember, let's see, I have the render somewhere. Let's see if it's here. Yeah, see, like it was pretty messy, right? Like it bald at the top and all that stuff. And then, but now as I add more and more hair strands, it starts to actually look more decent. And yeah, I like the way that the interactive works, because it's just a matter of like really packing things into layers, you know. It's I think like for the older guys that I sculpted before, since the hair wasn't very long, I could get away with just like a few guides and also add like some noise and stuff. But for her hair is gonna be much more, I need more control, right? But the thing that I wanna show here as well is this, so check this out. So right now I have all those guides, so it's creating a fairly decent shape in there, right? But then let's say at the end, like a couple of hours from now, when I have the scalp completely covered with all the guides, and it's still not getting the shapes that I want. So there are a couple of things you can try. And one of them is doing things manually, right? Like I never dispose this possibility because of how powerful it is, you know? And that any time you can actually just, you know, add a different sculpt layer. So for example, if I have this sculpt layer here, start add it. And then let's say if I want to create like a decent clump with those hairs right here. So what I can do is just get the freeze brush. I'm just gonna freeze those guys. Maybe like remove some of them. Let's see, this guy is here, for example. And let me just hide the other blue one so it's not bothering us. So that's basically all I want to do, is just like treat this little part in here. Obviously, I can reduce that, right? Remove some more or add more, right? But it's cool that you can actually pick like a region like this and then just come with the comb brush and tool settings, and you can say just like invert a frozen effect, right? And then with this, I can just get the brush in here and just like, you know, start like blend them together and make a little clump in there. And if I can even design it in a different way, for example, if I want to add some kind of curvature, so I'm going to bring everything out here with the bigger brush, kind of out of that bunch right there, right? Can do this, like, and create something that it's actually a replica of what I'm seeing there, right? So first you start like slow and you try to get as much as possible close together. But then if you get in trouble at some point not getting the shape, you can totally do this with, you know, it's like manually, just like get those guys in there. And same deal here. I mean, like you can come with this guy here with the stretch one, right? Just like with the move one. Just grab a little bit, oh, not this. Let me go with the invert frozen effect. Just bring this down. Then bring it like this. A little bit like this. Kind of like make a little point in there, right? And then if it's looking too weird, it's because we're gonna rebuild it. So we're just gonna rebuild. So let's get that. And then obviously I don't have any noise in here just now, right? As soon as I add a noise, then I can get a little better result. But before you do that, you just do a little bit more of that. Let's get it out of there slightly. Just like messing around here, but you get the idea. I mean, like it's just, you know, it's like you can free form grab any part of the hair and just sculpt the way you want. So right here, I got this now. So I can actually go to my, the top node, which is not the guides, right? We're gonna go to the main hair and I'm gonna go to the base and then rebuild it again. So it's gonna be rebuild the whole hair actually. So it got a little better, but you see, like, even though it got better, still not great because I don't have enough subdivisions, right? So sometimes, like I said, you might have to actually crank these numbers. If I put like 100, let's rebuild it. But obviously, because it's like 100 for each strand, but also multiplied by 150,000 hairs, right? It's gonna end up getting a little heavy at some point. But that's kind of like, you know, it's like just an example of what you can do. I mean, like it's you can create a lot of cool detail by simply painting things like that. So I'm just going to remove that now. So now you see like there's the little curvature in there, right? Like basically like if I could pull this in any direction and make the curve perfectly, right? But this at this point is just an example. And then here, obviously, you have like this slider in here, right? You can just like bring it back and forth and get like exactly the way you want. Everything is like layered, right? So it's very flexible. And then on top of this, you have a couple of modifiers you can help as well. So for example, let's see if I add the noise brush, the noise modifier. And the noise is in the clump. I'm gonna put it at the top actually. Let's move it around here. Oops. Okay, the noise and clump, okay, good. So let's see, noise. Yeah, it's heavier now because I rebuilt everything with 100 CVs, right, for each one of them. So now we can actually see there's a little bit more random, right? Which is always a good thing. And like I said, it might look messy in here, but when you render it, it doesn't look that messy. That's the same amount I have. And then obviously around here, maybe it's too much, right? This is all controlled with a curve, by the way. So it starts like with no noise whatsoever and gets noisier and noisier. But you can always reduce the noise so you don't get this weirdness here. You keep kind of like in between something like this that looks more natural right there, right? But noise always helps, you know, it's like any time you use. So for example, what I said about noise, let's say, show an example here. So I have it going from completely straight right here to something very noisy at the tips, right? So, but we have this curve in here. Let's see, noise, where is it? This guy.
Wait, so how can you clean up the hair in the middle?
Oh, which one? This one here?
No, in the middle, in front of the neck.
Yeah,
that one.
This one here, right?
Yeah, how can you clean that up?
I'm gonna have to find out where this is coming from first, but I can try. I can try to do this. So let's select it and let's see where is this coming from first, and then we can actually figure it out and put some curves in there. So let's try. Oh, B didn't work. Let's try B, and then make it smaller like this. So let's select some of them. I don't need to select multiple, so maybe just like this. And then let's follow the bunny here. We see it? No, we cannot see like that. Maybe we're gonna have to hide her face. Let's try that. Let's do something here. Let's click her face, the teeth, and also the teeth.
Chris?
Yes.
I believe actually there's an easier way, which is to add a collide modifier or something like that. I tried it before and it works. Like
yeah, the collide modifier, I talked about it before. It's like it's not super precise, right? Like sometimes you get in trouble with it's supposed to actually prevent the collision with the hair, right? But then sometimes it creates some weirdness in the roots. So sometimes the roots get like instead of like getting something like this, it gets like there's a break, kind of like almost like a 9-degree angle sometimes. But what I'm gonna be doing here is just gonna add a layer. So I just click that guy. Let's create a layer here so I can actually hide things a little bit. Let's see where Maya Classic. Let's see if the layers are here. Right. Where's layers? Man, I cannot find myself in this Maya anymore. Layers are supposed to be here, right? Where is it? It's the best interface for layers here. Molly standard. Where are the layers? I hope I don't crash Maya from clicking everywhere. Man, it was always here. Windows. All UV elements. Where are they, man? Workspaces. It was always here in the corner, so why is it not showing? Well, Maya drives me nuts, dude. And I use this freaking thing for like 20 years. And every time they update something, I cannot find stuff anymore. You guys have an idea? Oh, it's hidden right there. Oh man, look at that shit. It was completely hidden. That's why I cannot find it. All right, so let's try this guy. So create a new layer aside the object. So now we can actually see where it's coming from. Okay, so it's coming from right in the middle. Actually from behind as well. So right here, this area, around here, and then right in the middle right here, which is very weird, right? Like that's creating so many of them just by look at those little spots. Let's try to add some hair in here just to see what happens if you can fix some of them. And then, like I said before, I mean, like if something is really hard to fix, I can actually just, you know, force my way, right? Like just like I did with the sculpt brush. But I'm gonna try to add some more around right here. So let's show it again. So right here and then right there. So let's get my Maya XGen interactive groom. But how funny the whole thing about the layers, man, like hidden by default. Why would someone do that? Why would Maya hide things by default? I don't know. Anyway, so let's go here. Uh-oh, now it screwed up my interface. Look, the interactive groom is gone. Let's see if we can recover it using this one. If it doesn't, so let's see, reset XGen Interactive to factory. Nope, that's gone.
You can just reset the UI toolbar in the workspace.
To what?
You can reset reset the current workspace in the workspace bar on the right.
On the right?
Far right, yeah, that one. And then click on the reset current workspace down below.
Oh, okay. Let's see if it's gonna solve it. Yeah, I think it goes to a kind of like a very unstable situation sometimes, and then even if I try, for example, like restoring the default, sometimes it doesn't work. So, for example, like the workspace, normally this would do it, like the reset to factory defaults. But sometimes if it doesn't do it, it's kind of like, it's almost like a certain reset for me. Unless you guys know like a script line I can add here to reset it, but I don't know. It's just, it gets to a very unstable situation sometimes. So let's do, I'm gonna save it so we don't lose anything.
Or you can try to change from XGen Interactive Groom Workspace into Maya Classic and then go back to XGen Interactive Groom Workspace.
Yeah, but that was actually what I just did. I to find the layers, I switched to the classic one, and then I switched back to the XGen. And at this point, when you get the message down here, like normally shows like with the pink background, it's kind of like, you know, it's like already giving you some crap about something that's missing. And then you can tell that's from that point on, it's going to be just like unstable, you know. I'm going to try again to just like switch back to another one and then back. And if it doesn't do it, then I'm just going to reset Maya. And I hope it saves, because yesterday, that's when we got in trouble right here. Oh, it saved, so that's good. So let's try this. Look, Maya Classic. I can see it now. The layers are in there because by default, that's what I was seeing, right? The layers are hidden right there for some reason. Now I know. And then let's see, the XGen Interactive Groom. See, it's gone in there, which is a pain in the butt. See. Yeah, I don't think I'm gonna even try it. I think I'm just gonna bring, because I saw that there's a message there. I just didn't read it, but it definitely was an error message when we got that first. I'll just close this one very quickly. I said very quickly, Maya. Let's go. Okay, good. Hey, especially working with XGen, man. I don't think I ever did a full session of XGen without at least like one reset or like reload Maya or something like that. Although yesterday night, I actually put the entire hair, which is surprising. All of that stuff you saw today was from yesterday. And that was basically in a single session. So it was kind of overdue for a crash or some weirdness. Let's see. So that's another thing to get used to it. You know, it's like if you're working with XGen, I really hope they're paying attention to this stuff. You know what's funny? is that my neighbor works for Autodesk, right? And he's like good friends with us. His daughters actually play with our kids and everything. And he is now in a good position at Autodesk that he can actually talk about stuff, you know, so I can ask them. So he saw my post complaining about XGen on Facebook the other day, and he was really concerned about that. So he has me, you know, it's like he promised me to actually talk to the main guys in there and try to get some of this stuff sorted out. So let's hope that happens. It's funny, man. He was all concerned, like, oh man. But he didn't give me shit. I mean, like, he didn't say like stop complaining online. He just said like, yeah, that's concerning. Let me talk to the guy. So that was the perfect attitude right there. So now we have our stuff back. So let's see. Let's expand this one. See my sculpt brush right now. What's going on here? I think that's the, you see the layer that I sculpted right here? That one I just put right there to create this little guy in here. That's the thing that XGen does sometimes, you know, it's like, although I sculpted just in there, you see like it's modifying everything around there as well in the back. And then even here, it's creating this weirdness in there just by having that. Oh, not this guy here. So it's changing the top as well. So I did this one as an example, but I mean, like, you have to be careful selecting just that stuff, you know. So in this case here, it seems like I, by mistake, ended up selecting something else, but I have to be careful with that. So let's try again to just add some hair right here and see if we can fill up that gap. So guides, in guide, and then sculpt, and then edit. Let's click this guy here and just add one at a time. Let's turn off my symmetry. And let's see, increase the size. So I think like it was right here, right? Like we can see in there the problem, and then around there. So we're gonna try one here first. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, Chris?
Yes.
Quick question.
Yes.
For your color map on those test renders you had, were you just plugging in a simple hair color texture on in the melon slot?
The melanin, yes.
Okay.
That's
in the standard hair. So you're just like, were you doing that in ZBrush?
What you mean, like ZBrush? Oh, to paint the color?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was doing everything in ZBrush. Yes.
Okay.
So if I show you this is the melanin one here. So it says hair melanin.
Sorry, I didn't mean to derail you.
No problem. It's my pleasure. So yeah, this one here was actually from Stan Winston. So you see, it's pretty messy because he had lots of salt and pepper in the eyebrows. But that's basically what I use, you know, it's like as a map similar to this. In her case, I mean, like, she's not gonna have like salt and pepper or anything. So I'm actually using pure colors for the peach fuzz. So it's kind of like yellowish, very like a very low melanin. But for the hair itself, I might actually do some variations in here. And the way you work, sorry?
Oh, I was gonna ask, do you need to actually paint the color of the hair on the actual texture, or can you paint like a black and white mask, kind of like what you're doing here, and then control that in the shader? Yeah,
so this one here is going to control the amount of melanin. So everything that's black is going to go white in the render because it's going to be removing the melanin. And as you go higher with white, you're going to get darker and darker. So if you have like someone with a brown hair, you're going to have to find like a medium. So let's see, for example, here in her case, if I click the main hair, let's do a Control-A attributes. So if I go all the way here to the shader itself. So what I have right now, I have the melanin without any color at this point. So basically, like, I'm not controlling the amount of melanin in different areas. What I'm controlling is actually the base color. So the base color is what I'm creating. Oh, now the renders are gone. So I'm gonna have to render again. But let's see. Let's try to do a quick render. It's gonna be too weird if she doesn't have a face. Let's try. Let's see. Oops. Control H.
You also mentioned that you can control it through a ramped texture. Did I hear that correctly? Okay.
Yes. I'm gonna
what's that about?
Yeah, I'm gonna show you. For example, like the way I created this ramp for her hair to start like darker at the roots and then lighter down there was actually basically using a ramp. I'm gonna show you. So this is the mass of the hair. So let's try a little render here. And let's see what's my properties, because before I was talking about noise. It's actually 8, it's not terrible, but still gonna get a little noisy. I guess 10 would be perfect for like noiseless hair. But let's do this without the face. Let's see if we can see the hair. And then I can show you like in real time a little example of changing the color. So, okay, so that's the hair right there. And you're gonna see at the top it's gonna be darker. Let's just do like maybe one side here. Go a little faster. So at the top is it's darker, and then when it gets here, it's gonna get like lighter. So the way I'm controlling it for the darkness right there, you see like as you go towards the tips, and here it's gonna get more and more white, right? So basically, let's look at the melanin level. So let's look at this. Around here, so main hair. And then attributes. Let's go here. It doesn't have the noise, so that's why it's looking, like I said before, you're gonna see intersections and everything. As soon as I add some noise, let's add the noise here, let's see what happens. I'm gonna start blending those colors better, so let's see. So let's go back here to the color. Oh, not this guy. This guy. Okay, so for the melanin, what I'm doing here, if you crank this value all the way to 1, you're gonna get black hair, right? If you go all the way to 0, you're gonna get white hair. So what I'm doing is basically like to keep like a light blonde, I'm keeping like 0.56, and then you can control the redness of the hair as well by using this this slide here. So it's just a very slightly reddish, but it's mostly like blonde with some darks. But then what I'm using here is actually is the base color, which is like I can control here as well, right? Like I'm actually reducing the base. So let me just save this one. Let's store it and just do some comparison stuff here. So let's do a view, store snapshot. Get down slightly. You can see what we're doing. Let's cancel it for now. Actually, just do this faster here. So that's what we have for comparison. And let's just, yeah, let's just save this one, view store, let's delete this one. So it has a little bit more information. Okay, so now what are we gonna do here? We're gonna just increase the base. So let's see what happens if I increase the base right here. So it's 0.435. So it's getting a little bit lighter, right? So if I go lower in here, it's gonna get darker and darker. So it's actually eliminating everything. It's actually turning black hair. And then here, I'm actually gonna crank all the way to something that's go more towards the white hair, right? But basically like this base here is talking about the base color. So this one is gonna be actually controlling the base color, which is a ramp that controls the color of each hair, which is, you know, it's like if I'm using a ramp that's a V ramp, it's gonna control the top. I believe the top is what is gonna turn dark. And then the bottom is going to be lighter. So let's see how I have it here. So if we expand the color, I have a simple V ramp from Maya. So like it's a regular Maya node, it's not even an Arnold node. And then this area here is what's controlling the root. And then this is the middle. And then that's the tips, right? So since we have the scene saved, let's play with those values. So for example, if I click this one here, let's switch to a weird color here. Let's try green. So that's starting to colorize everything all the way to the middle area, right? But when you get to the tips, it's probably not gonna be green anymore. So if I add another node right here, for example, and this one I'm gonna turn red. So that introduces some red right there. So you got like some green, yellow, and red, and then it starts getting, you know, dark and then white again. So that's basically what I'm doing here. I'm just adding those nodes just to control that kind of stuff, you know. And then here for the hair color, I'm actually adding a little bit of like a light brown, a little bit more saturated, but kind of like this. And then basically like that's what I'm doing, you know, it's like controlling the each one of the hairs. But then for the color of the melanin itself, that's the one that's going to control how dark and how white it's going to get. So this is basically white hair, but it's still being influenced by the base color, right? So you're still going to get some blacks and whites in there because of the base color, the way it's driving it. But the melanin is actually what's controlling if you're going to start adding more yellow to it, right? So if you have around here, you're going to get very light blonde, and then a little bit more natural around 100 something right here for the blonde hair. And then when you get all the way up, then for example, if you're around here in the middle, right? So you get like a dark brown like this. But then if you want to make like a red hair, for example, you can crank the melanin redness in here. And then all of a sudden you're going to have like red hair.
So do you use the base, just input the ramp into the base color and then paint like a melon map?
Yes.
For the color of the hair and kind of use the combination of both those?
Yes, exactly. So basically,
awesome. Okay.
Yeah, the melanin is going to come, it's a map, it's going to come from ZBrush. And you can plug in here straight away. You can have like all the UDIMs plugged in there. But then the base color is going to be, you know, it's like the one that's controlling each one of the individual hairs. And that's something that I never used before. Marlon actually asked me last time. And then I decided to do a little test here and it worked just fine, you know. So I think that's helpful. So let's see. Let's go back here. I think her hair was around like 100 something. And then
in the past, have you plugged anything else into your hair materials?
For the hair, what do you mean, like in the base color?
Or in the spec or anything like that?
Not really. I mean, like I just plug the melanin, and for the spec, I normally play with the values here. Sometimes I use this anisotropic roughness as well. It gets a little bit of a different kind of result. It looks sometimes more realistic as well. And also the amount of specular sometimes I play with. In her case here, I think it's missing a little bit of the spec. So I can actually crank the index of refraction in here. So by default it's 1.55. Let's do something crazy here, like 4, for example. You're gonna see how shiny it's gonna get. It's gonna be almost like silk, right? So you can get to something in between. So for example, instead of 1.55, you can try like 2.2 or something like that. So you get like shinier. But, and then obviously here the roughness, right? Like if you want to make something that's very silky, probably like lower values as well. But I think at 0.2 is fairly nice, you know, it's like for it's a little bit more of a broad spec, so it's kind of cool. But I normally don't plug stuff in here. There's the tint, and the tint seems like it's, if someone is, oh no, this is actually, the tint is for the specular, sorry. But the diffuse. So if you're trying to create like a painted hair, right? Like you know, it's like someone just like have their hair done in some salon and just like got like a pink hair. I believe that's the diffuse you're going to be using. I normally just do like natural hair, so I don't use a lot of that. In her case, there's a little bit of both, right? So I might have to use a little bit of the color diffuse, but I might want to cheat and make kind of like, you know, it's like a look like it's more like a natural kind of blonde, which is, you know, it's kind of nice on me, right? But if I, for example, like if I change the diffuse color here to pink, for example, right? It's not going to change anything because I don't have anything here. But if I start bringing this one up and up, then you're going to get something that's kind of like an artificial color, right? So that's basically what you want to do if you want to create something that's, you know, someone who just colored their hair. So that's the kind of stuff, you know, it's like, especially like you youngsters out there who like to, you know, do all those fairies and elves, probably like you're going to get some hair like that, you know. So yeah, it doesn't have a ton of things to plug in the hair here, but I think just with those you can do a lot, you know. You can create, for example, like a tiger pattern with you know, playing with the melanin first, just like to get some of those stripes, you know, it's like more yellow and black. And you can also play with the base color, you know, it's like I think the base color you can actually layer it. So I might be able to actually do something for the individual hairs plus using a map as well for the rest of the color, but I have to experiment with it. I know that if you plug a ramp, it definitely is going to color the individual hair, but I don't know exactly if you plug like an entire map here or you know, it's like a collection of UDIMs, if it's going to do the same for the individual hairs, or if it's going to assume that this is coming from the scalp, you know. So I have to test this. For the melanin, I'm pretty sure he assumes that comes from the scalp. So if you plug maps in here, it's definitely going to obey those maps. But the base color, I'm not sure. I have to do a little test.
Thank you.
Yeah. So this guy here, no pink hair for her, although she would love that. I think if I do a version of that, I think she's going to love it. Let's bring back the lady so I can actually see what I'm grooming. Where is she? Oh, it's right here. Okay, she's back. And then this is the new one I just added. So you see, like I put a little hair in there and he grabbed a bunch of those blue ones, but not all of them. A lot of those blue ones are still going all the way across her face. So I'm gonna just maybe like get this guy a little bit out of the way right now. Interactive guide. Let's get this a little bit out of the way. And it is a little heavy now. Oh, actually, I'm actually getting the blue ones to move instead of the opposite, because under tool settings, I have the invert frozen effect. I don't want that. So this one should affect just that area. And it's going to be very heavy because each one of them has 100 steps right now. So let's just turn off the main hair, this guy here, so we can actually groom freely. And then, like I said, I mean, like you can start a little separating here. And then when it gets closer to a strand, you want to actually turn it to a little bit of a clump, and you can actually force that come a little separate, kind of like that, just to fill up. And then when you get closer to the tips, you can just like merge with some neighbor, get something like that. And so I'm gonna just paint those guys now. Move to the next one, which is gonna be pretty close to that one. So let's see, you can see the entire hair again. Yeah, I see like I still have all those blues in there. And I think some of them are coming from this area right here, which is a little tricky. I'm gonna add some more in there just to help out. Click guide, make sure the edit is on. Just gonna click this guy around here. Yeah, I captured a lot of them just by using that one. So started to remove some of that stuff in there, but like I said, I mean, like it's gonna take time for me to actually add enough curves that's gonna capture most of the hairs. They're kind of like rebels at this point, but eventually we're gonna get most of them captured. And then if you still have some weirdness going on, I can just like create like a sculpt layer and just like sculpt them into place, you know. So I'm doing everything kind of like by brute force right here, right? Like we're kind of like pretending we are just sculpting the hair instead of like fighting with the software, right? We're just gonna, instead of fighting it, we work with it and see what we get. And then at any time you can just sculpt stuff freely. So I'm not even concerned that's not gonna work. If it doesn't work by any chance, the final groom, it's just because I wasn't good enough to actually groom that way. But in terms of tools, just those things I show you guys, you should have enough tools to really groom it. And like everything else in this class, I mean, like it just takes time and work, right? Otherwise, there's no meaning for life if it's not for learning and working hard for those things. Okay, let's get this guy. And yeah, so I had another thing to tell you guys. Let me see if I remember. My brain's a little fried. Let's see, it was something else, some more info I had about the hair. Oh, this thing. So yeah, so let's add another modifier in here that I forgot to mention. So the first thing I'm gonna do is just gonna click the hair itself. And remember I added like 100 steps for the hair. I think I'm gonna get this a little bit less than that just so we can actually keep working So we're gonna go to the main base here. We're gonna just go back like, maybe like put 40 here. Or if you wanna go, you know, multiple of 8, so 36. So it should be very squarish, but at least it's gonna be faster to interact. Right? It's kind of like yeah, some curvature, but a little bit squarish. So there's this modifier here, which is really cool. One thing that people don't play too much with is the clump, and the clump has all kinds of awesome stuff in there. It's not just for clumping the hair. You have lots of modifiers within it, including displacement and all the stuff. So, for example, I'm gonna do something here, which is like gonna just remove the noise for now. It's kind of removing a little bit of the volume, and I'm just gonna add a clump modifier. This one. And let's experiment with some of those modifiers that are inside of it. So by default, you get something like this, right? It looks like wet hair. It's getting like very clumpy right there. And obviously, depending on how you have your polygons painted, you're gonna get more or less of this. Sometimes you get like very few of them, and sometimes you get a ton. But you control this by using this density here. So for example, like it's 1 right now, right? So if I bring it down all the way, it starts getting less and less of them like this, right? So it's starting to get more interesting. You know, it's like if you're trying to do someone like a, you know, it's like just by doing this and maybe using a noise combined with it, start to get a little bit more of a, you know, natural kind of hair with a little bit of a curvature in there. So you can play with that. Then obviously, let's go back here to the clump itself. And so basically like the density just brought it down all the way, right? And in the same token here, if you wanna increase the density, you're gonna see much more of those guys. So let's try something crazy here, like 50. So you got like, the clumps get super tiny, right? Let's try 30. So you get some of them in there, kind of like, you know, starting to merge in here together. So it looks more interesting, right? I might actually use this later on for her because I think they kind of clump similarly. And then you get some freebies as well, right? Like some of them are kind of like weird in here, but then it's because we don't have any, you know, it's like interesting curvature or anything to break it up. Now, this is just like the regular clump, the effect that we expect, right? It's just like the hair coming from the roots and then clumping to something, which you control with this curve right here, right? So you can actually use the curve to control the entire thing. And for example, do it like a negative clump, right? They start spiking out. So you can actually control by adding like a spline. And then let's do something here. For example, I can start getting clumpy like very, very early. So if I get this down like this, see how much like the root, it's right here, right? So it's not clumpy at all, but then it starts getting much more wet looking if I bring this down. So it starts like very early to start getting sticky together, right? It can look oily or something like that. So, you know, it's like, this is a cool thing because you have so much control with a curve like this. I think it's a very cool feature. But at this point here, so let's play with the other modifier. So the clump does this, obviously, but what about the other stuff you can do with the clump node? So if you keep going down, 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 you're gonna see there you have like all kinds of stuff. You have the flatness, you have offset, you have curl, and you have orient. I don't use like normally like this orient, I don't use it, but I use the curl quite a bit. So by default, if you crank this amount here, it's not gonna do anything. So if I just like bring it up, it's not gonna do anything because you have to play with the curves. For each one of them, you're gonna have a correspondent curve. So if you go to the curl here, now remember that at the left is always the root, right? And that the right is always like the tip. So if I start like playing with this, look what happens. It's gonna start twisting everything, okay? But because I don't have a lot of steps right now in the hairs, because I reduced everything to 50, right? You're gonna get that type of result in there. But the thing that's interesting with Arnold and Maya in general is that you see like those values going to 1 normally, and you just don't go further, right? You don't even think about it. But let's say like by mistake, you just press 5 here. Let's see what happens. So it's starting to get like much more curves, like in curls. So let's try something even crazier here, like 30. So you see, like I have all this mess happening right there because I don't have enough spans. So let's see what happens if I add some spans in here. So let's try main hair, and I'm gonna rebuild them back to 100. It's gonna take some time, but let's see the difference. So it got very, very scraggly now, right? Because it's a lot of stuff. Look, you still don't have enough spans. Still like getting very, very squarish. But let's bring that curvature down. So instead of like 30, let's try something like 10. See, 5. I think it was actually pretty decent. So yeah, you start getting this type of effect, you know. And then obviously this you can combine with that number that we were playing with before, which was the, where is it? The density, right? Let's go back here to something very little. Not 0, but 0.1. Then you can get this type of effect, you know, it's like starting. Obviously, those ones are not held by anything, right? Like, so basically, like those guys here are the ones that are actually floating across her neck. So that's why they're going pretty wild in here. But the ones that I actually have guides to control them, I'm getting these interesting twists now, right? It goes all the way down. And if you combine this type of stuff with noise, depending on the type of noise you can get like dreadlocks and all kinds of different stuff, you know. So let's see the density here at 0.05. See, that would look very nice if it wasn't for those guys who are completely lost in here. And but again, as soon as we have them locked into something there, that's going to be actually, you know, be better to control. But that's just to show, you know, it's like kind of like a Goldilocks kind of thing. And then if you go back to the curve in here, remember, like you have the curve to control it. So the select value is at 5 right now. But you also have the slider, right? So this guy here, I can actually go back and control how many of those twists I'm getting. So sometimes you just want to have like some kind of like a undulation like this, a little bit more of a wild hair. You can just play with that, you know, it's like just using combinations. So the curve, so here, for example, like this kind of effect here is already helpful for her because I'm getting a little bit of this natural look around there. So that's, for example, like something I could potentially experiment with it. You know, it's like keep the curl very, very low, even negative values. Let's see what it does. That's maybe too much. If I'm gonna use it here, I'm gonna have to use like low values just to get a little bit of the twists, but keeping it natural looking, right? And again, like those guys in the middle, they're completely lost. I have to find the roots and then and hook them. I already did that with a few more in there, but I need to do some more. So now we have this this nice little hair that looks a little bit more undulated by using the clump, right? Like, which is like the name doesn't say much. Is to me is the most powerful of all those modifiers. It's just like you have like all kinds of stuff, and each one of them is controlled by a different curve, you know. So you can create all kinds of crazy stuff, and you have a noise control here. So, for example, like if I introduce more noise, it's not going to show because I don't have anything in this slider just yet. But if I go up here, you can see the noise right there. Let's see what it's going to do. It's adding the noise just to the hair itself. It's starting to look a little bit, so the noise frequency, let's crank it. And then let's go back here to the noise. Let's see if we really crank this value here. Let's see what happens. 5. That's too much already. But you know, it's like it's another thing you can add on top of it, right? So all those things, you see like the reflection there? All those things can help to create like all kinds of crazy effects. I mean, I know like some people really love the core stuff because you have all kinds of controls, but you have a lot of control with the interactive too, you know. It's like especially the fact that you can actually override stuff with sculpt layers. I mean, like that's quite amazing, you know. It's like you can actually sculpt anything. But I mean, it's just a matter of like how much time you're willing to spend, right? Like, because tools you have plenty.
Well, not me, because I have a bad experience with XGen core, you know.
Ah, there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But at the same time, I mean, like some of my students, like from the previous classes, they had a lot of crashes with this XGen Interactive, and they were kind of like obligated to use Core, and they did a great job. Managed to actually do a good job with it. Actually, let me see if I can find, like Camilo did. Let's see if I can find him. Let's see. Was it Camilo? No, it was actually Emerson. Let's see. Emerson did a great job with his model. He did a Ayrton Senna, like the Brazilian F1 driver. He did a CG version during my class, and it turned out pretty cool. And the hair was all core. Let me just find it here for you guys. So look at this. So yeah, he did during the class, and then the hair is all core. Let's see, he did like all this stuff. He actually created the full scene, which looks like this. And it was all groomed with the hair, with the core, because he said, like, man, I really tried to do the interactive. It's just like it wasn't working for me. So he could have more variations, obviously, and stuff, you know. But he managed to get like a very cool result overall. This is showing like his evolution, which is kind of cool. So let's see. Does it go back? No. Yeah, let's see this guy here. Yeah, you see, like he added a lot of curves, right? Look at that. So I think he was using a combination of core and curves. Very interesting. Yeah, he did a great job. I told him I was proud of him. I love this scene here, actually, the one that doesn't show the hair, but it's pretty convincing and cool. Yeah, all right. So let's go back to her here, and then now we have the noise back in place, plus a little twist, and then the clumps going a little bit too thin at the tips, right? So we can actually go to the clump again, and just like remove. You can either remove the entire clump a little bit, or just play with the curvature here so you don't mess with the other stuff. So you can get a little bit more variation. So it's not like super tiny. Let's try to expand this so I can actually see better. Small, but not like completely to a tip. Something more like this. And then there's some flatness in there as well. And then obviously, like if you're using the noise, you can always use the noise, multiple layers of noise, one for the thin stuff, some of, and then some noise like just for the larger stuff as well. So let's try to do a little modification here. So noise, and then I have the frequency at 0.2226. The magnitude is at 5, but I'm starting very, very low in here when it comes like to the roots themselves. So like the root is not, I would not touch the root when it comes like to noise, because it really messes up the entire thing. See like how nice it looks in there. So if I'm gonna bring this one up, because the root is gonna start getting very messed up. Let's see. Yeah. Actually, here it didn't look too bad, but sometimes it gets like those weird angles. Yeah, right there, it's kind of like starting to angle too much. So yeah, you have to be careful with it. You know, it's like maybe a little bit of it in this case here is actually helping. So I might keep a little bit of it. But then, for example, like when it gets to the tips, you got a little bit too noisy at some point. But yeah, it doesn't seem like here is too bad. Let's see if I crank this one. See what happens. It's actually, I think it's going to help actually. So I think it's because the clump is in there, and the clump is actually on top of the noise. That's what it's doing. You know, it's like the order always going to be influencing it, right? So let's see what happens if I just move this noise up here. It's going to be a different result. Very different result, right? So it's very evident what it's doing now. So let's bring this one back. The noise now I can actually control because at the top of the stack. So I'm gonna bring it down closer to the tips. So it's noisy, but it's not crazy noisy. It gets noisier kind of like right in the middle in here. And I think that's the reason why it was not looking too crazy in the roots, because it was underneath the clump. Let's see how it looks now. Yeah, it looks a little crazier now. I see like kind of like a square, kind of like a 90 degrees, some of them. So that's why I don't touch this one too much. Let's see. Put back to 0. And now, yeah, now it's following the direction I want. And let's see, I think that's kind of like what I had to show you guys for today. I think like with those, if you never use XGen, I think like you're able to start. I mean, like just going back like very quickly of what how I started the whole thing. So a little recap. So yesterday I just selected the model itself, right? And I clicked the symmetry that was off in here, and I turned topology on. Then when that happens, you're going to be prompted to actually select an edge. So I selected an edge right in the middle, so something in the nose. So now I had the selection being symmetrical. So I right-click the object, and I click the, oops, right-click the object like this. So I click face, right? And then with face selected, I switch to this guy here, which is for painting selection. And then I painted in symmetry, both sides. And I remember like when I painted everything, I can show you exactly the area, which was, so if I turn off everything here, let's see. I like this part actually, turning off all this stuff. So let's turn off the noise, the clump, the guides. And that's basically the area I painted, right? So I painted here, and like I said before, I normally paint an area that's bigger than what I expect to use, because I want to actually be able to blend those guys into like little fuzzies and things like that. So I normally grow a bigger area. So, and then basically like I painted this area and assigned a hair definition or description by, you know, having those faces selected and just click create interactive room, right? In this case here, I don't have anything selected. I would have to do this. And then give it a name. You're gonna see here the amount of hair strands or follicles you're going to be generating. So you're going to have to play with the density to get an approximation in here what you want. If your model is world scale, that's basically like my settings here. The width is like 0.01. TV count originally 64. You can start with less if you want, if it's a shorter hair. And the length that's 0.8, that's basically this length in here. Because the length is going to be influenced by the guides themselves, so you don't need to worry about like matching the length at all. You can start with something like this, and then as soon as you have the guides in place, then they're going to drive everything down, right? But it takes time. It takes time to add the hairs everywhere. And let's see if this, oh, this is the sculpt that I don't need anymore, so I can just click on it and then delete. So sculpt. This one, I think I don't need either. This one is just like for my example here, I was actually showing how to create this guy here. Right, so I'm gonna delete it too. This is actually affecting other areas and I don't want that. And then the clump. I think I had one clump that was actually a little crappy. This guy here that was looking a little bit too wet, right? And then I create that other clump that actually creates a little bit more of those bigger curls. And then this one is the one we play with all kinds of modifications in here, including the noise, which it might be a little too much right now. So let's just reduce it. And then even the clump itself can just reduce overall. Something like that, maybe. Yeah. So yeah. At some point tonight, I'm hopefully going to be able to capture all those guys here. And I'm pretty sure they are located around here and here. So once I have them all in place, you know, with enough curves, then I'm going to be able to clean up her face and start actually doing the design to get something like this, hopefully. You know, it's like in the next few days, because, I mean, it's not a fast process, right? Like, you're seeing this, I mean, like I have to plan which one's going to be overlapping with the other ones, which ones are going to be able to actually capture like the shapes like this just by using some curves, and which ones are going to be actually have to select the like bundles of them and just sculpt manually, you know. but it's a lot of work. Like hair is always like a big project, you know. I watch people like the guys actually doing good job with grooming for humans online. They post stuff like for weeks, you know. It's like it takes weeks to get like a decent result when it's something more complex like this, you know. So it's not something you're going to be able to do during the class, probably. But in terms of the tools and everything, I think I expose you guys to basically like everything I use, you know. It's like, and it's just like more repetition and then trying to get things to look correct, you know.
One thing that's really hard is to make braids, you know.
Oh yes,
Braids.
definitely, man. And yeah, there's a someone scripted something for Maya a long time ago, and those guys are really good actually. And I don't know if it works for XGen, but it definitely worked for Maya Paint Effects, which was basically like you would just like model something, model the braids, and then I don't know how you did. I think it was like you would follow the UVs or something like that. So you had to make the UVs in a certain direction, and then it would just grow the hair inside of that. So that was pretty cool. I don't know if XGen can do that. I never tried to do braids in XGen, but it's a good one to research actually. Yeah, I don't know if you're gonna have to do like manually with just with the curves, or if you can actually use some geometry. Although with the geometry, you can always select the geometry and then create curves from a polygonal geometry, and then maybe you can use those curves to actually drive everything. You know, I'm gonna do some tests actually. But I think that's it for today, guys. Thank you so
You're gonna
much.
try braids?
Yeah, I might try. You know, it's like not for her, but just like to learn and pass the information to you guys. You know.
I see.
Yeah, but not for her for sure. Thank you so much, guys. Thanks for all the support and for being here. You know, and making me less of a hermit. So have a great night or a great day, and I see you guys tomorrow.
Thanks, Chris. Have a good night, man. See you tomorrow.
Thanks, Chris.
You too.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, guys.